Hey everybody, it's DG, and we're back with another episode of the Marketing Swipe File, which is my favorite podcast. Dan's behind the scenes on the camera. He told me that's his favorite podcast also. He actually said favorite marketing podcast. I don't think he listens to any other marketing podcast. So anyway, today I want to give you, so I'm a big marketing nerd, and I read a ton of marketing books, but it hasn't always been the case for me. I hated reading. I never read books in school. Sorry, Mom, you know that now, but I'm sorry about that. I never read books in school, but when I got to Drift, and it actually, like, I didn't really start reading until like my late 20s. I was probably 28, and I met DC, the founder and CEO of Drift. He usually sits here when we do our other podcasts together, but he started feeding me these marketing books, right? And so my whole thing was I came into Drift, and you've heard this if you've been listening to the podcast at all, but basically I wanted to focus on SaaS metrics and tools and technology and all the kind of new marketing stuff. And DC's challenge for me was, hey, go back and study the things that have never changed. Go back and study people. And so he put me on some of like the greatest books about marketing that were all about copywriting, direct response marketing, social psychology. And so over the last couple of years, I've built up this library of marketing books. And now I thought, you know what? I've never really given away, I've never shared those books with people. And a lot of people ask like, hey, what are the books that have impacted you the most? So I want to take you through 7 of them now. And just a quick plug, I have 14 books on this list. I'm going to give you 7 for free right now as part of this podcast, but I'm gonna put the other 7 on Drift Insider. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want you to go and see the content that we have created in Drift Insider. It is so good. It's expert level sales and marketing content, and I want you to see how much value is in there. So I'm gonna do a little bait and switch on you. Is I'm gonna give you 7 on this podcast, so you get 7 for free, right? But then if you go and create a Drift account, a Drift Insider account, which is drift.com/insider, you'll be able to get the other 7. Okay, so first let's rip through these. Okay, I hope you got a pen and pencil. Actually, you don't need that. You can just we'll put these in the show notes. So number 1 book, this is not in any particular order, but I do have 2 that I always label 1 and 2. The number 1 book that has helped influence me as a marketer is actually called Influence, A Psychology of Persuasion by Robert Cialdini, which is an amazing book about people, right? How we all make decisions and how we all think. It's all about social psychology. Before you pick up any traditional marketing book, go and read a copy of Influence. Influence is the one book that I do a lot of speaking. I speak in front of a lot of marketing audiences, and I always ask people, just because I'm curious, to say, how many people in this room have read Influence? And the amount of people that raise their hand, it's usually about 1 out of every 100, which is crazy to me because this book has basically all the secrets in marketing in one book because it's all about how people make decisions. So buy that one first. Influence, A Psychology of Persuasion came out in 1984. The next book is Ogilvy on Advertising. You know I love this book if you listen to this podcast at all, but Ogilvy on Advertising was the first book to really teach me about the power of copy, direct response marketing, and advertising all in one book. I love this book because it's super visual. I really do this now. People on the team have probably seen me do this, but anytime I have writer's block or I'm stuck, I go and I grab this book and I just thumb through it for a couple minutes and something unlocks and I get an idea. So go pick up a copy of Ogilvy on Advertising. That's 2. Dan's taking notes right now while we're watching this. Okay, I got a couple more for you. The next book is called Behind the Cloud. Behind the Cloud, the untold story of Salesforce, of how Salesforce.com went from idea to billion-dollar company and revolutionized an industry. This book is actually not about marketing, but is a story about how Marc Benioff and the team built and grew Salesforce. Benioff is a CEO and the founder of Salesforce, but he is one of the greatest marketers of all time. I put him up there. We need, you know what we should do, Dan? We should do like a Mount Rushmore of marketers. That would be pretty cool. That's nice. So I would put Benioff up there with Steve Jobs, okay? And Benioff is a marketing genius because what he knows how to do is to get people to pay attention. And I love this book because in Behind the Cloud, he doesn't just tell you a story. He gives you specific plays. Like each chapter has number of plays. So you'll be on chapter 10 and it's like play number 121, how we do events. Go and read this book, but I do want to tell you one story. So Salesforce's biggest competitor was this company called Siebel, okay? And Siebel had their big user conference. come on in. We're just finishing up the marketing podcast. DC just walked in because we got to film a secret episode of Seeking Wisdom, which is also only available at Insider. Okay, so in this book, Benioff talks about how he hijacked the Siebel conference. They literally hired actors, put them in jail cells, put them outside of this conference, and then turned into this PR machine and big news story out of it. So that's one that you definitely got to go and check. That's number 3. Number 4 is a book called Scientific Advertising, which is by a guy named Claude Hopkins, which was written in 1924. Okay, this book opened up so many things for me because I read a book that was almost 100 years old, and I realized everything that DC had been telling me, which is, holy shit, all these lessons from the 1920s are still just as relevant today. And that is the thing that convinced me to go and focus on studying people, not necessarily marketing tips and tactics. The next book, what book is this? Number 5? Are you counting? I'm counting. Number 5. Dan's like, he's no clue. Number 5 is The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes. This is the only true sales book I have on this list, but you have to read this if you're a marketer, because Chet Holmes in 2007 broke down the playbook for doing sales that is still more relevant than ever today. I remember in the first or second chapter of this book, he has this like pyramid, and it basically shows you that 97% of the people that walk into your store or come into your website are not ready to buy right now. So what do? And he breaks it down in the rest of the book. So if you want to become a better marketer, you have to understand sales and the principles of selling and having great conversations, creating offers. This is all in this book, The Ultimate Sales Machine. Number 6, speaking of sales, my favorite copywriting book of all time is called The Ultimate Sales Letter. That's this book by Dan Kennedy. This book alone costs $12, but there's one page in here specifically early on in the book where Dan Kennedy has 10 questions, the 10 questions that you should ask before writing anything. I have this book on my desk and I use it before writing any landing page, making any new decks, writing a sales letter. This book really taught me how to write great copy. And then number 7 is a book called The Presentation Secrets of Steve Jobs. This book looks like garbage. It looks like a trash business book. It looks like a stock photo. If a stock photo could be a book, that's what this book looks like. But this book has taught me more about public speaking and doing presentations than anybody. Ever since I got this book, I've recommended it the most. So Maggie, you've probably heard Maggie's podcast, the Build Podcast. Maggie's doing a big public speaking gig for the first time in June. She's speaking in front of 1,000 people. She said, DG, can we go for a walk? I want to pick your brain on public speaking. I said, sure, we can go for a walk. But before we do, go and read this book, The Presentation Secrets of Steve Jobs. It tells you how to write amazing headlines, how to frame your story, and really how to get people to pay attention while you're on stage. So that's 7, okay? I gave you 7. Hopefully this is a big enough hook for you. I have 7. How many more do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 7 more books that we're going to put on Insider. So if you like these first 7, go on to Insider, drift.com/insider. We will have the second half of this episode available for you with all the other 7 books. So that's 14 books that I recommend more than anything else to people who want to read and learn about marketing. Thanks for checking out this podcast, and I'll see you on the inside.